Hey everybody, Rob from Premier Fitness and Massage here. Wanted to talk about triceps real quick. Lots of confusion about triceps, tricep training, what exercises to choose, things like that. So I wanted to kind of cover that and hopefully help save you some time or help you redirect and use your time efficiently. For this, it's to understand the kinesiology of your triceps helps out a lot with this. So that's why we have our little skeleton here to kind of hopefully show this. So if you look and you see the red marks, that is where what we call the origin of the muscle. So this is where the muscle kind of starts from. And then the blue is the insertion points. So typically, not always, but depending on the movement, typically you pull the insertion point towards the origin. Okay, so that's how we get the muscle movement. So when we talk about the triceps, so it has three different heads. We've got one head that connects right here, one head that connects all through here. So lateral head, medial head, and then one that's up here on the shoulder blade, so the long head. Okay, so the insertion point for these guys is going to be right here on the elbow. Okay, so this is on the ulna. So the confusing thing for a lot of people is hand position. Okay, or they do lots of variations where they change their hand position. Well, if you look at, if you can kind of see his arm there, if we do supination, pronation of his arm, that elbow doesn't move regardless of what we do with hand position here. It's the radius that moves around the ulna. It's not the ulna that does any movement with supination. So to have a connecting point right here, there's no change for that. So there's no reason to involve supination, pronation, neutral, grip, sloping, whatever, when you're talking about triceps, because it doesn't do anything for you. So what does matter is because of these two are only going to be involved in that elbow extension. The difference here is going to be this guy, this long head. So because of the long head, we're going to not only want to do an exercise where we've got our arm down at our side or a little tucked back behind, but then we'll want to try and take those 2 points and lengthen them out by having your arm up overhead. So those are the only two positions that you really need to worry about. What you do hand position wise doesn't matter. Okay, so that's all that matters, is we want to have maybe one exercise that's got our elbow in a position that's back. So if you look at the EMG studies, if you like those kinds of things, looking at those, they say things like dips, close grip bench press, diamond grip push-ups. That is where you can kind of get this arm down at your side to target these two guys really well, and that can get you kind of in that position where your elbow's back. Okay, so if you think like kickbacks, okay, great for that, because then your elbow is in an extended position, which is one of the roles of that muscle, but it kind of plays a part in that. So then if we really want to target that long head though, then we've got to put it in a more optimal position to contract, because back here we put it into a shortened position so it doesn't contract as well. So if we put it up and over the head, so something like a skull crusher, or an overhead type press, or like a close grip overhead press, that will target a little, or get that muscle engaged a little bit more than normal. So with me, I usually do some kind of tricep press down, I'll do dips, and then I'll do some kind of skull crusher or overhead extension variation. So sometimes even with the skull crushers, I won't just stop at my end point here and just have my elbow stay put, but then I'll include that little bit extra of extension. So not a lot, but it's kind of where maybe the bar will kind of get to the back of your head. So you'll have to round up over your head and then come up. That's one way that you can get a little bit more activation out of that muscle and target that a little bit more. But again, playing around with neutral grip, overhand grip, it doesn't really matter. So what you will notice though is if you go from a tricep press down to an underhand, kind of more of a pull down, you'll have to drop the weight down typically. So the reason for that is when you're in an overhand position, in order to lock your wrist out, your flexors are really fighting to keep that bar from yanking you into extension. Well, your flexors have a good amount of mass to them. Okay, they're good, strong muscles. We use them to grab onto things. So they're nice and strong. When you turn that around and you do an underhand grip, it's your extensors that have to fight from having that bar pull you into flexion. Well, those guys are weak. So that gets that muscle out of that weakens the whole movement, because that stabilizer is now weak. So you can only go as heavy, or you can only go as strong as what the other muscles, the stabilizer muscles, the synergists are going to be able to help with. So it's not so much that your triceps are weak in that position because there's no difference for them. It's because the other accessory muscles aren't as strong in that position. So you're not going to overload your triceps that much more because you're taking those muscles out. You're actually going to do the opposite. By weakening your stabilizer muscles, you're not going to be able to hit your triceps as hard as you would like to. So pick something where your arms back, dips, kickbacks, anything along those lines, and then pick one where your arms up overhead, and get all three of those heads that way. Don't worry about the supination, pronation. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to leave a comment below. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Otherwise, you can check us out at www.premierfitnessmassage.com. Thanks.